Good day, class. Welcome to Research Writing. We are now at the last part of Unit 4, Writing of the Chapter 3 of your proposal on data analysis.
We are done with research design until data gathering procedure, and now we are at the data analysis part. Now that we've collected and gathered data, what will we do with this? We go next to analysis of this data. Data analysis is the process of systematically applying statistical and or logical techniques to describe and illustrate, condense and recap and evaluate data. It helps in reducing voluminous data sets into smaller segments whose mass structuring brought new ideas and interpreting the results. What is the importance of data analysis? Number one, it summarizes collected data. Remember, in one of the examples I gave you, the sample size computed is 380 respondents. So just imagine how much paper and data you have there. So without any analysis, how will you be able to extract or answer your questions using this voluminous amount of data? Also, it involves the interpretation of data gathered through the use of analytical and logical reasoning to determine patterns, relationship, or trends. So how do we do this? We can do this by using analysis techniques, and here in this video, I will just um, enumerate three analysis techniques. We have descriptive analysis, inferential analysis, and thematic analysis. But there are a lot of different types of analysis. So we start with your descriptive analysis. So descriptive analysis, also called your summary statistics, because it's used to describe the data that have been collected on a research sample. So the mean, median, and standard deviation are the main descriptive statistics, and you've seen and computed examples of these during your statistics subject. So they are used to indicate the average score and the variability of scores for the sample. The advantage of this type of analysis is that the researcher uses only one or two numbers to represent all of the scores of the subjects in the sample. So its capability to reduce a large amount of data, raw data, to a few descriptive statistics, and it greatly simplifies the task of data interpretation. So we have here examples. So in one table, you can already see the data of how many respondents, 54 respondents. This is an example. This table is an example of a frequency and percentage distribution table. Another example here is using mean and descriptive interpretation. And here you will see the average and the total mean score of how many respondents and the descriptive interpretation of this mean. The next type of analysis is only used if you have inferential questions in your SOP. So remember when we fixed your SOP, we have inferential questions there, and these are the questions that are also used in your hypothesis. So inferential statistics can be used to estimate the probability that the observations made in one sample can also be true to a larger sample. So that's why you have sampling. And to infer whether there's a pattern of observations and due to a particular independent variable, or whether it might well have been due to chance only. So in doing inferential analysis, you can use software such as SPSS, your STAR, your EpiInfo, and the usual software that we use in our studies in the college is your SPSS. So this is one example. This is looking at uh, differences on knowledge, attitude, and practices. And we used ANOVA here. If you see this generated result, it's actually generated by SPSS. So you can easily see that you will reject the null hypothesis, reject null hypothesis, reject null hypothesis. So a frequently asked question at this part is, what analysis or statistic should I use? So it actually depends on your objective or your problem. If you're looking at correlation between two variables, you can use Pearson correlation, chi-square, and if you do have ranking, you can use Spearman-Rho. So for example, you want to know the relationship between age and smoking behavior. So it's a correlation. So you can use either of these. And when you're testing differences between two independent sample means, two, that's only comparing the difference between two, you can use t-test or z-test. T-test if your sample is lesser than 30, and z-test if your sample is greater than 30. For example, you want to know if module A has the same effect as module B. That is testing differences between two independent sample means. But if you're testing differences among three or more independent sample means, you can use ANOVA, or if you have covariance, MANCOVA. And an example of this one is same as the example for testing differences between two, but you have actually three or more independent samples. So to know if there are similarities in the attitude among users of module A, B, and C. So there are a lot more different tests that you can use depending on the type of your problem or your objective, and you can check out your handout for that. And if you have statistician, you can also ask what is the best statistic or test to use for my objective. So this table is very useful if you already know the type of data that you have. So we have nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. And if you have how many independent variables, we have one sample, two samples, and multiple samples. So this is very easy to use. And if you already know what to use, you can actually just put it in your SPSS software, and it will generate results very easily. So we have descriptive statistics where you can use Excel because it's just a frequency and percentage and the mean, median, mode, and standard deviation. You can also use SPSS for your descriptive analysis. For your inferential analysis, you can use several softwares, your SPSS, STAR, and your EpiInfo. And for the last type of analysis, this is thematic analysis. This is quite different because you do not have numbers, and you use these for systematically breaking down and organizing rich data from qualitative research by tagging individual observations and quotations with appropriate codes to facilitate the discovery of significant themes. So here the softwares used are in vivo, or I just learned recently we have also WebQDA. So but in the last research that we've done for DOST, we did thematic analysis, but what we did was manually looking at the themes or answers of the uh, respondents and looking organizing this to themes because we did not buy the software in vivo and WebQDA. But this in vivo and WebQDA have also trial versions. So you can also try that. This is table showing the themes and sub-themes that we got from the thematic analysis that we've done for the assessment of the common health and social problems of the core shelters in Tuguegarao City. So we have here common health problems and common social problems, and the main themes that we've got is infection-related problem and injury related problems. For social problems, we have social vices, assault, and poverty. And within those themes, we also saw sub-themes and listed it down in this table. Now, how do we write the data analysis part in chapter 3 of your research proposal? You need to go back to your research questions. Again, this table is very essential in doing your data analysis part. Next, describe the analysis to be done for each of the research question. So because I have only one research specific question here, what you need to actually do, you need to follow the sequence in the statement of the problem. So you need to start with objective or problem number 1 and discuss what will be the analysis that you will use to answer that problem number 1, and then problem number 2, and then go with problem number 3. I'll be using descriptive statistics and thematic analysis to analyze the data gathered in problem number 3. Next is state how will you compute and analyze the data that you have. So you already stated the analysis that you will be using, but you also need to state how will you generate the analysis. Will you be using Excel? Will you be using softwares like SPSS? Or will you be using in vivo for thematic analysis? Let's check out this example for the data analysis procedure. Frequency, percentage, weighted mean, and standard deviations will be used to analyze and identify the level of acceptability of proposed instructional material. Paired sample t-tests will be used to determine the significant differences between pre-test and post-test, and on the other hand, Mankova will be used to determine the significant differences between the different teaching modalities at 0.05 level of significance using SPSS. Thematic analysis of the FGDs and KIIs will be done for triangulation and in-depth discussion using in vivo. The data will be then analyzed and interpreted by the researcher. How long should this part be? So you see in our example, it's usually only one paragraph, but 1 to 2 paragraphs will do. So in this PowerPoint video, we talked about data analysis, although we didn't talk about in detail the types of data analysis. I'll try to do a separate video for those types of analysis. And we also talked about the importance of data analysis and how do we write this part in chapter 3 of your research proposal. So that's it for chapter 3 of your research proposal. Thanks for watching.